Ever wonder what a miscarriage costs in America? Let's go over it. I've had three.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of React. Today, Carly and myself are going to be looking at the cost of miscarriage in America and how this compares to that in the UK. Before we dive in, please can you like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell.
Ever wonder what a miscarriage costs in America? Let's go over it. I've had three. My first pregnancy loss was a ruptured ectopic pregnancy. $59,409.98. I am still dealing with the grief of my first pregnancy loss, but I am also still trying to settle that bill because my insurance is arguing with me that I could have gone to a different hospital where it would have been cheaper. Months later, I was pregnant again and had a missed miscarriage, and that surgery was $23,411.07. Last but not least, for my third pregnancy loss, so I feel like you have to laugh or you cry, I somehow managed to get a discounted rate of $18,241. Bringing us to a grand total of $101,560.98. That's it. That's the video.
We're not used to that in the UK. The financial cost of going through, especially as she said, sort of the first one was an ectopic pregnancy. So that would have been really dangerous had she left it to go to a cheaper hospital, which might have been further away. That would have been life-threatening. But how insane is that? How much money it costs when you're going through something like a miscarriage in America? It's crazy.
Yeah, and I can only imagine how she feels to be faced with those medical bills, emotionally going through 3 miscarriages, and then your third one is a discounted rate.
I know. It just takes away, doesn't it? Like you know, I haven't experienced it myself. You know, when you're going through miscarriages, you have no space in your head to think about anything else during that time. You're just grieving. Yet being faced with that bill as you walk out of the hospital is incredible. I was actually in America, in LA, when I had a second ectopic, and obviously we had travel insurance, but we had to pay for the scan that I had to check that I was fit to fly. And so I do have a tiny bit of experience of this, but we're very lucky in the UK that we do have the NHS, and, you know, we don't have all these giant bills that we have to pay when we're going through something so traumatic like she has.
It's like, how do you afford it? And, you know, I know people have insurance, but probably not everybody has insurance in the US, and some people do have to pay these medical bills. And what happens if you can't afford it? You know, if you genuinely do not have that money and you haven't renewed your insurance, or, you know, something's happened where your insurance is void for whatever reasons, and you actually cannot pay that bill. And we know in the US that birth rates are declining, but then you're faced with these medical bills, and then you've got the cost of, you know, you don't get maternity pay in the US. And it's like, come on, like, help people out. Like, there's no need for these types of bills, especially, you know, for miscarriages and pregnancy loss. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
And I wonder what it does for sort of the future of fertility as well. Like, if you know, decide that you're not going to go to hospital, you're just going to go through a natural miscarriage and something happens, you know, goes wrong, you're just going to, you know, be at home, or something happens and it affects your future fertility potentially because you feel like you can't afford to go into hospital. That is, you know, it's much bigger. It's a much bigger, you know, decision than we would have to face here in the UK, I suppose.
Yeah, like you say, we're lucky. So we do have the NHS, and you know, we aren't faced with those bills. You know, we do have all that covered, and we are really lucky. You know, like the Australia and things. You know, they don't have these type of medical bills, but the US, like, that's just extortionate, and it's just not fair. It's not fair, and I feel really sorry for people that are having to go through that and are faced with those type of medical bills. And, you know, and it'll be interesting to know when they receive that bill. You know, she's going through these miscarriages, and then you get that bill. When do you receive it? You know,
I imagine you receive it as you leave the hospital. I'm not 100% on that. So you pay it and then you claim back later on your insurance.
So you're going through the emotional grief of your
and then end up
loss of your baby, and then we've got these medical bills. So you know, the emotional toll that it's going to take on your mental health, your family, your partner. You know what I mean? It's just not fair, is it?
No, it's not at all. No. So if you're having a miscarriage, you would, you know, initially go to A&E or to the early pregnancy unit. If you thought you were having a miscarriage anyway, they would obviously scan you, but that would be free. You could go for a private scan if you were desperate to go private, and then obviously you'd be paying for that. And then, you know, they would scan you and give you the prognosis, I suppose. And then from that, you would either be, depending what type of miscarriage it is, whether it's you've already started, you know, a natural miscarriage as such, or a miscarriage. If your body started expelling the pregnancy, then they would probably, you know, send you home potentially if it was, you know, your body was doing it naturally, or they might need to give you some medication, or if not, it could be surgery that you know, need to have. So, but that would all be covered on the NHS and the aftercare as well. So they're very responsive to things like, you know, if it was an ectopic pregnancy, they would be, you know, seeing you pretty quickly, considering it can be life-threatening.
But you wouldn't see your medical bills in the UK, so you wouldn't get any sight of the costs. But because it's all covered.
Yeah.
We're really lucky.
Yeah.
If any of the topics discussed today has resonated with you, or you were going through something similar or have been through something similar, please comment below. But as always, keep the comments kind and respectful. But you could like, subscribe and ring that notification bell, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.